This is really good for when you're looking at how to write for SEO. So what I would do, and you might see a few discrepancies because I don't think that they use Moz, but it does go into the process of keyword searching and how to create SEO friendly articles. And this is really like what we had looked at when we did the mini project one. So we start with like, what is the purpose? What is the intent? What is the page that someone's going to? And then really goes into how do you structure your text? How do you write your text? And then how do you review it? So most of you have done some kind of writing in the past. SEO writing is just a little bit different, right? So I'm going to look at, I know this is a large resource, so you can scroll through it and just kind of, it's up to you how deep you want to dive. You can see that there's a lot of links onto other pages, but I would encourage you to spend most of your time for this week just digesting this and going over it, seeing, thinking about why you want people to go to your page. Is it informational? Are they like looking for something that they're trying to navigate to? Is there something buy and sell? So these are all important things. Like we're talking about connecting. Are we looking for information? Are we looking for some type of connection? Are we looking for some type of transaction? And even when we look at sites like Reddit, right? Reddit is just a huge forum, right? In so many ways that you can talk about anything and everything and find groups of people that are interested in the same topics you are. So again, I would encourage you to come through here, look at what's a good process for writing an article. A lot of it's just like looking at outlining it, right? Where are you going to borrow content from? Where are you going to find content from? A lot of times we're reworking stuff, right? We can't go to a website and just steal the content and say, okay, great, this is now the content for my site, because first of all, it's plagiarism. Second of all, you'll have duplicate content, and duplicate content is something that we definitely want to avoid. What that is it's when Google sees two pages that are the same, it doesn't know which one is the author. So I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But just think about your audience when you're writing. Who are you writing for? What is their need? Do they have a specific need? Do they need carpet cleaning, for example? Do they need someone to help them with their yard work? Do they need someone who's super great at SEO, right? So think about that and write in terms where they can understand. A lot of standards say that you want to write for an 8th grade reading level. And so if you keep that in mind, you want to write just clearly and plainly, nothing too fancy. And that's what most people read at. So good thing y'all are in college, because you're way above that. So again, go through here. There's, this is my favorite call out for here, the inverted pyramid style. So basically it's like, what is your biggest point that you want to have? And you put that up top. So your key point, you don't bury it halfway through the page, put it at the top, and then you go into your second point, and then you go into your third point. And then it's really easy to digest and skim. So this is a really great way to put information on the page. So if I was writing about the best dog collars, I wouldn't put that at the bottom I wouldn't tell a story about Fido and how he ran away and how I couldn't find him. I would start with the best dog collar up front, and then I'd get into like the storytelling piece. And so hopefully that makes sense. And then of course, go ahead and edit your text and make sure your sentences are readable and they aren't too long, and also make sure your paragraphs are clear. And you know how we talked a little bit about writing for web is different than academic. If you look at these paragraphs, and this was a big transition for me when I went back to writing academic papers, because I got so used to writing for web where like this would be a paragraph, right? But for most academic papers, they want at least 3 to 4 sentences, just depending. So this wouldn't count. I got really into how do you write for web and how's it different, right? So this is a good call out to say it's okay to write in short, chunky versions for web, because that's really how people digest and skim, and they don't read website pages like you would a paper or a novel or a book. So again, spend some time with this article. It's a really great resource. Will help with project 1. And then I did want to look at this SEO friendly blog post. So this is a great resource too. There's just that click off the top of that header. looking at what's a good way to write a good blog post. So this works through what we had just done for the mini project 1. Do your keyword research before you start and have your focus keywords. And then again, have your structure, think about what you're writing, use paragraphs and headings. The headings just help you understand what's on the page. You can use related keywords, you can use transition words, and then also look at the length of your article. So for those of you who hate the 300 word mark, here you go. So make sure your blog posts, this is just a general rule of thumb, have 300 words. So when we go into the project 1, I will be looking very heavily at your word count to make sure you hit the 300 words per page. So if you think about that, you're going to have at least, since we have 5 pages that we're optimizing, we're going to have at least 1,500 words that are just on page. So it's good to think about this now. Get started on this now. Sound good? Fun. I wish I made it up, but you can see that it actually has content. It has depth to it. And if you are looking for ideas, pull in lists, pull in storytelling, pull in like relating to the user. And yeah, of course, I want you to use the Yoast SEO plugin, which is great if you're using WordPress. This Yoast SEO plugin helps a lot with just some checkboxes for how to optimize the site. Okay, a couple good resources there. I wanted to talk about this really quickly. So, such a big word, right? Canonicalization. And what this means is canonicalization or canonicals. What this is let's say that I have 2 pages on my website, and let's say one is an article I created in 2019, but I want to refer to it because I'm creating a new page. Let's say it was a blog post. I have a blog post in 2019 about Fido's dog collars and how it's the best dog collar and it was lost. Well, if I want to reuse this on like a different page, like let's say that I want this content on I have a new shopping page, for example, or I have like a page where I'm really talking about building out a story about this dog collar. What I want to do is I want to think about this code. And for the coders of you here, you might enjoy this part. So duplicate content is something we definitely want to avoid. So there could be like similar content, but similar content has to be diverse enough. And I know it's like kind of vague, but it's diverse enough that it's your own content and it's not the same sentences, it's not the same structure. So when crawlers see too much duplicate content, they first of all might flag your site as spam, and then it could impact your rankings. And so, I've had some people, like clients, come and say, hey, can we just borrow this from, let's say it was like for HVAC work. They'd say, can we borrow this text from the Association of HVAC for our website? And I was like, you can't rip off text. So that's just one of the biggest things to know. So what you do is in the code, and this is just high level, but it's something good to know. Because if you ever come across it, then you can think back about that crazy word that I was talking about. But the canonicals basically is telling this website, it's saying like, hey, here's a link from one page, and this is my new page. It's the one where I'm selling the dog collars. But it's referencing, it's going to have the same content on that page as the one I did in 2019. So all this is saying is like, this page, the content is coming from this page. And so that way it's a way of flagging to Google that you don't have duplicate content and that your actual master page of content is here. I'm going to pause there for a second to digest. Let me know if you have any questions on that. You shouldn't need to like implement it in this class, but it's something good to know in the future. And it's really good to know that you don't want duplicate content on any site, across your site, any other client site, anything like that. And if there is a case where let's say you have, this is actually a decent example. I don't have the exact link for it, but there was a blog post that was on a personal blog about law services, and they wanted to move it to the firm site, the corporate site, so they could have that blog post on there. So what we did is put in a canonical for it and said, hey, here's the original post sitting over here, and you're going to see duplicate content, and here's why it's referencing it. Kind of crazy, huh? Took me a while to figure out like what those actually were. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like a reference to the original. All right, I'm going to jump back here again. So our on-site SEO overview, you saw these in week 4. And so these are just, again, references for quick access, talking about what is on-site SEO. Maz and Rand, who started it, who has since moved on to a different company, is great about breaking down information. And so if I were you, if you don't remember this video, come back and watch it. This is a great video talking again about keywords, on-site SEO, and it will refresh your memory for going into our project 1. And the other one here is the visual guide to keyword targeting. This is again, that big visualization chart of robots and where's your metadata and what you use for your description, or is your URL descriptive. So what I would do here, just keep this as a reference, maybe bookmark these and take away the big high level points here. So some of the big high level points are making sure your content is unique. That's very important. Making sure that you, like when you actually are building on a website, and we won't touch on this in this class, but making sure you have a really good experience, like the user experience is clean, it makes sense to users, they can navigate it well. We'll get a little bit into robots. So robots, you can actually block your site from showing up on Google if you don't want it, if you don't want a certain page to. We'll talk a little bit more in this class later about XML sitemaps and how we submit those to Google. And so you actually, just rule of thumb, you don't want to block robots in general. You usually want your site to be crawled. But there are ways, if you're using WordPress, you can untick that on accident and then the site doesn't appear. I've had some clients accidentally do that and then they don't show up at all. And then we'll also talk later about 301 redirects. So these are permanent redirects. So let's say I change the name of my website from the bestdogcollars.com to bestdogcollarsintheworld.com. Then I would set up a permanent redirect that would show Google what the new site is. And this is all really important, especially if you're changing a client site or moving pages. So then we get into, again, the keyword targeting, why this is important down here, and what the headlines, body text, and URLs are. So we did have a touch base a few weeks back on what's a good way to name a URL, or we talked about it with what's your favorite color and favorite place, and kind of getting into this hyphens in between. So what you want to think about is anytime that you are naming a page or have information going on a page, you want to make sure that you use hyphens in between, keep it all small case, and then make it descriptive. So Google usually ignores words that are like to or the or by or on, like those types of words. But for the most part, you want to just name your URLs. Like for my best dog collars, this one glows in the dark. So let's say I would put that it would be best dog glow in the dark dog collar, and I'd always have hyphens in between it and keep it lowercase. And there's more best practices here. And then with your images, one of the biggest things is making sure they have the alt image attributes. I know we're going a little deep here, but just to surface it, is that if you have an image on the page, you want to have a description behind it. So if it's an image of a dog collar, I would say dog collar glowing or glows in dark, something like that. And then this goes into your CMS wherever you have the images, but it is important to have these. And one of those reasons is because when people who are on e-readers scan the site, and the images that don't have an alt attribute, they won't be able to see them, right? Because they are visually impaired. And so with an e-reader, what it does is it tells you what the picture is. Right? Internal links are good. External links are good. Very, very good. You want to link to as many resources as you can within the site and across the site. And always want to make sure you have a strong meta description. Does it make me want to click? Right? That's where we get into the tiny little ads. And then this is down here is just something talking about what correlates to higher rankings in Google. A lot of these are just more incoming links, page authority, domain authority. These come from how long your site has been around, how many links you have going into it. And then it goes down into keywords and such. So just some thoughts there. And this could go on and on and on, but the top ones are the ones I would pay attention to the most. So, and we all know that any website should be scalable and usable across phones, tablets, and desktop computers. There was a while where they called it mobile get-in, and it was 2016, I think, where Google was changing from desktop to mobile. And so if your site wasn't optimized for mobile, a lot of people actually were impacted by not having a mobile friendly site. It was pretty crazy. Mobile get-in, those were the days. And now we just know that everything's mobile first.